right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the very next Pre-Dental Club meeting. So today we are going to have a very special guest presentation from Dr. Naftali Rosenthal, and then following that we are going to go over election position overview, kind of just a very brief summary of the different rules and what they consist of. But to begin, I wanted to give some background on why we as an e-board decided to do a meeting on more of the business side of dentistry. And that is because as a dentist, you are obviously a doctor. But on top of that, if you are in private practice, then that means you are also partially a business owner. And if there's anything I've learned from listening to different dental students is that often you aren't really taught about that end of the spectrum. So we decided it would be really helpful, hopefully not too overwhelming because we certainly have a lot of time to figure, these details out, but at least to get us thinking and to potentially plant some seeds in our minds for questions we can be asking while we are in dental school or to just kind of put our foot in the water. But before I introduce Dr. Rosenthal, I also wanted to remind everyone that the next meeting will be a personal statement workshop from Career Counseling Support and Services, which will be on March 3rd. This will be a really helpful kind of, starting point. You certainly don't have to have your entire personal statement written, completed. If anything, it's just a nice point to begin brainstorming and to kind of organize your thoughts because it's definitely a daunting task to kind of summarize your whole life into an essay. And then a lot of people in the group me were asking to be the details on the pre-health virtual personal statement workshop. So if you check out the most recent email that was sent on February 16th, Joanna added all of those details in there. So if you're looking for a more immersive, intensive, kind of synchronous type situation, then I would highly recommend that you check that out as well. Okay, with that said, I would love to introduce Dr. Naftali Rosenthal, who will be speaking about the business side of dentistry. I found some facts from his Facebook page. He's a general dentist at Daily Dental Embraces. He studied at Case Western Reserve School of Dental Medicine. And I will just hand it off. And just as a little reference point, we're going to do about 25 minutes of presentation, and then the last few minutes will be reserved for questions. So try to keep a mental log of any, questions you might have at the end.
All right, thank you, Lily. Thank you, Mela, for reaching out to me. Mela's one of our office teammates. She's great. She's awesome. We only hire 18 members, so Mela's one of those. I'm Dr. Naftali Rosenthal. You said it perfectly. Tiny little brief thing about myself. My wife and I, my wife is also a dentist. She graduated also from Case Western. We have a couple dental practices. They're just family practices, just us. So when Mello reached out and asked me to speak about the business side, I thought that's a great idea because it's definitely something you don't so much get, acquainted with. You don't really get any sort of education. You get like maybe one class in dental school, but not much else. You go through about 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of dental school, maybe a residency. And you graduate, about 10%. The rest of it you learn. The rest of it you learn on the job, on the fly, which I've been in practice for 3 years now, 2 of which have been as a solo dentist, my own practice, which has been awesome. But I've learned a crazy amount in those 2 years. So I'll talk a little bit about today. Today, I think a lot of it's going to be about, any questions you guys might have. But I'll kind of go through a little bit of what it is to even have a dental practice, because the dentistry, what you'll learn in dental school, is really the easy part. Can you guys hear me okay? Everyone cool? Dentistry is the easy part. Crowns, bridges, you start adding things, you do implants, you do wisdom teeth extractions, root canals, you do whatever you want to do. As a general dentist, and I'm a general dentist, we even do a little bit of ortho, mostly cosmetic, Invisalign, things like that. But that's the easy part. So today we'll talk a little bit more about the the business side of things. So for the first thing, you find your practice, and I'm not going to go through like how to do that, but my suggestion is maybe don't jump right into it, kind of thing. Get your feet wet. Learn what a business even is. I would actually recommend taking some business classes in school. I actually majored in economics in undergrad. I did not even major in any science or anything like that. And supply and demand, it comes into dentistry as well. But going through a day, you come into work every day, and all you want to know is, are these people that you're working with, are someone you want to hang out with for 8 hours every day, all day, every single day for basically the rest of your life, hopefully. But, so the biggest thing, and I'm probably 25% of what business is staffing. And if you ask any dentist in the world what the biggest headache is most of the time, now, we've got people like Miles, so we're fine. It's staffing. So when people say dentistry is a business and you're an entrepreneur, which you are, you're really a team leader of a bunch of staff and employees and different roles that you have to play. That's about 25% of it is staff. I have some materials here. I have the best Zoomer in the world. If that's a word. I'm trying to split screen this and pull up my information. Is there anything in particular that you guys want me to make sure I hit on also? Just while I pull up this thing while I figure out the Zoom. Can you hear me? Lily? Are you muted? Do I have to unmute you?
Yeah, I can't think of anything in particular. I'll pull up the list because I did come up with a few things, so let me do that.
I gotta go through this real quick.
I think you kind of touched on how integral the staff is to the whole, process. So maybe that would be something to kind of go more in depth on. And just like the general balance of being both a business owner and a doctor.
Right.
Even some personal stories of learning things on the fly that.
Oh yeah, sure, for sure. Yeah, so that was kind of what I was going to do, is like talk a little bit about my own personal story, because honestly, I don't know how many people run their business, and everyone runs it a little bit differently. The way I've been running our practice is we kind of outsource as much as humanly possible. We've got our A team, we've got our front desk, we've got all of our assistants, all of our hygienists. We've got specific assistants for certain things, but the main thing you got to do is you got to have a team behind you. So like your accountants, we're kind of in contract with this very expensive accountant called Kane Waters. I would write that down and look into them, because they actually help new grads. So if a new grad wants to start a practice or join a practice or just be a solo doctor, Kane Waters is unbelievable. What they're doing for us is very expensive, but they're very good. And then you have to get your billing. You're not going to learn anything about insurance ever. Like, I still don't know very much about insurance, but insurance is something that you kind of have to look at them like they're kind of like the bad guy, even though they're not. They're there to help facilitate people getting work done, but at the end of the day, dentistry is very, very expensive. If you're in a private practice, your fees are a lot higher. So like a crown for us is $1,400. Insurance might get that price down to like say $900 or $1,000. The patient portion is still going to be at least half of that, which is $450. So and that's for one crown. That doesn't include a buildup. There's no root canals in there. There's not even the exams before that. Dentistry is very, very expensive. Let me talk a little bit about that, because as much as we go into this field thinking, we're going to help people, and all I care about is making people smile. I want to make everyone love their teeth. You could still do that, but at the same time, you have to pay your staff, you have to keep the lights on in your office, and you have to own up to your own fees. So I truly believe that my $1,400 per crown fee is worth it to the patient. It's going to save that tooth for a very long time. The tooth is not going to crack. It's going to build the tooth back up, restore their occlusion, the way the teeth come together. So you have to truly believe in your own fees, and it is very expensive. And you have to be able to, you're not necessarily like a car dealer where you're selling something that's important and you might have a passion for it. You're actually selling someone on health. So you have to be a little bit of a salesman or woman, but at least that what you're selling is very important to this person's life. For example, I had a patient today. She came in, she wanted to do braces. And our fee for braces is like $5,000. Mello, what's our fee for braces? $5,600. It's a lot. It's not that much. No one ever pays that much anyway. But she wanted to do braces, and she came in, and I noticed her bite was a little bit off. Like she was just coming down on her back teeth. And I said, "Have you had any trauma to your jaw recently?" Because her bite was just really unusual. And she said she was 58 years old. She said 3 years ago, my grandkid hit me in the jaw. And ever since then, it's hurt. I look at the x-rays, and all she wants to talk about is braces. I look at the x-ray, and she's got a severely fractured condyle, or this part of the jaw. And it never was treated. So now she's got severe arthritis in that jaw. Now she needs surgery. Her healing time is going to be months. She's never going to get to braces. But she keeps asking me like, well, I want to do braces. I want to straighten my teeth. So I have to go and I have to get all the insurance information for her to do all that surgery. And it becomes very, very difficult. But you have to that is what business is. You're selling something that people really do need. So it is. So, I mean, yeah, so you kind of have to have that little bit of an aspect of that personality where you are a little bit of a salesman, which no one's ever going to tell you that. And as much as it sounds kind of negative, if I were you guys in undergrad, I did this a little bit. I did some door-to-door sales while I was an undergrad, which was really hard. And I was really bad at it. And I really don't think I sold anything ever. But it gets to that mindset of, I know what you need. I want you to have it. This is how much it costs. Here it is. So if I could give you like one really good recommendation is go get yourself like a sales guy for a while. Because you kind of are, which is a terrible way to explain it. But it is true. Now, luckily, you're selling something that you believe in, so that makes it easier. I went off track a little bit there. Let's come back now. So anyway, so we hire an accountant, a huge accounting team, Kane Waters, write them down. They're awesome. You hire people who verify your insurance for you. Now, we do train our inner staff to do that. What that means, what verifying insurance is, people come in, they give you like a card, which means nothing. You have to go in and actually figure out exactly how much insurance is going to cover. It's pretty hard. But a little bit more information about that. You need a lawyer. We have patients. I had a patient 2 weeks ago. She was in braces with us. She's been in braces with us for like 3 years. 2.5 years of that, we've never seen her. She got braces back in 2018, never came back. And now she comes back and her gums are incredibly swollen. Her teeth are straight, but the gums are terrible. There's cavities. It's a big mess. So we say, we're going to take the braces off. Don't worry about, any of the finances. We just need to get them off and we get you put back together. And she looks directly at me. I will never forget this. And I did not sleep that night. And she says, I've never even met this person, because she was there. One of our associates actually was seeing her. That associate's not with us. So I've been seeing her. No, I saw her this time. She looks directly at me and she says, when you take my braces off and the brackets all go back together, I will sue you. And she looked at me with these huge eyes and freaked me out. But Yeah, so those are like some of those things that you're not really going to be taught how to deal with, and all of that is CYA is the acronym, which is cover your rear. I won't say the other word. Documentation. So getting better at documentation, writing down everything. If you keep a journal now, that would be a good practice for that. Covering your behind with documentation, write down absolutely everything for every single patient. Man, there's just so much to talk about with the business side of things. Trying to keep it on track. I've got some bullet points over here. Does anybody have any quick questions real quick? Tying them up? Everybody's muted.
Someone in the chat was asking what.
Oh, how do I get the chat? Where's the chat?
Oh, it is
a
small little button.
Yeah, there you go.
I can read it to you if you'd like.
I see it. I found it. What is my opinion of the office manager? More important than you are in the dental office. They do everything that allows you to do dentistry. Now, the office manager is probably the hardest person to find. I came into it because my wife's was also a dentist. Her sister helped us start the practices. Her sister, our office manager. And as much as people say don't work with family, I say work with people you trust. I trust my sister-in-law, and she's amazing, and she's the reason that we are, as we're doing quite well, and most of that has to do with your office manager. So that's a big one. You hire very slowly, so you don't be in a hurry to hire. It's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, when I was an undergrad, even as a senior in undergrad, you don't think about I want to be a dentist, whatever. I actually didn't even want to be a dentist until I basically graduated, but my wife told me to be a dentist, so I became a dentist. You don't think about running a business. I mean, it is 100% running a business. Like I said before, the dentistry is the easy part. So you need a partner. And the office manager, as much as you're going to call them an office manager, they are your partner. And you will pay them a lot. Office managers make upwards of $100,000 more a year. I know office managers who make a lot more than that. I know office managers, that make a lot less, but that's how important they are. I mean, you can pay them a portion of your income. You can do whatever you need to do. I couldn't imagine, I've seen many practices have one, also not have one. I could not imagine what a practice would be like without a manager, without an office manager. You've got your front desk who's going to do a lot of that stuff, but there's so much behind the scenes. All right, we have a first year student majoring in business as well. Smart. I majored in economics, statistical economics or something. Which I don't remember anything of. So, okay, this question was, I guess we could get to questions. Is that cool? I think that'll be even more helpful than me just kind of rambling about random stuff, because there's a lot. And I can leave you with my phone number or email if anyone wants any more questions later. But this student asked me, did you say anyone's name? Is it Riley? Hi, Riley. My parents' dog's name is Riley. It's a great name. So Riley's taking some of the majors and was wondering about how to fit in the prereqs for dental school. When I went to dental school, I called that dental school well before I was even applying. I'll talk a little bit about applications, because that can be helpful. If the dental school you want to go to knows who you are as a person, you are ahead of 99% of the applicants, because they get like thousands of applications. Ohio State gets tens of, I don't know how many they get. They get a lot, but they know your face and they talk to you, and you're in the pre-dent, so you're obviously cool. If you are automatically, you can score a whole lot worse or do worse. So get in with them and ask them, hey, what courses do I need to take? If I'm majoring in business, and the dental school only requires, biology, chemistry, orgo, and physics, which when I went to dental school, that was all Case Western required, maybe like calculus. Just take notes. They don't care if you take crazy other classes. Take the, so don't overdo it. Find out exactly what the schools you want to go to require and just take those classes. You can also take them after you get your major. There's no rush. People live till they're like 120 these days. Just kidding. They might, who knows? How do I evaluate whether to buy an established practice or start from scratch? So we started from scratch. We went in, it was kind of a family thing. My wife has two sisters. One's a dentist, one's not a dentist. I was working with the other sister. And as a family, they just kind of bought these like small practices, two of them. And my wife and I were the dentists and running them. And we'd have days, we'd have 0 patients. So when it comes to like starting, I can go for hours starting a practice, but you're going to start a practice and you're going to have 0 patients. We have an office in Dublin now. It's our newest office. And we have a great dentist there. It's OSU. But she'll have days where, she has to do the cleanings, and she won't have that many patients. So if I could tell, if you just want to have one solo practice, I would buy an existing practice, jump right into it, but go there and become an associate. Work for the dentist for a couple of years, and then you'll build relationships with patients. They'll love you, and then they'll stay with you when you transition to practice. Because whenever you buy a practice, you lose a lot of patients. Can you talk about loans to start a practice? Very easy. Banks are going to just give you any amount of money you want. You just, you're going to have student loans. You're going to, get married and have a house and have a mortgage and all that. So with me, like I have the student loans and the mortgage. My wife has the practice kind of thing. Don't worry about getting student loans. The banks love dental offices because they do very well. And you have to have your personal credit doesn't matter all that much, but don't even worry about getting a loan. Just go to just do a little research, go to the bank. But you're welcome, Riley. What about the debt on top of a student? There's a great book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You have to read every single, most of these books behind me are business books. Best Day for Dummies. This is my wife's favorite one. It's just fun. There's a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it, but it's a great book. And it talks to, Ross knows it. It talks about why the rich get richer and the poor don't, I guess. You basically, and you'll get used to this as a dental student, as a medical, well, not so much in medical because they don't, but you basically live in debt. Just get used to the fact that you'll live in debt. You will not sleep for like a year because all you'll think about is the debt. I'll tell you how much debt. My student loan debt right now, I went to Case Western and I had 2 kids while at school. So Case Western's already expensive and they've become even more expensive now. We think about going to schools that are really expensive. Case was an excellent school though. I have $360,000 of student loan debt. And that I have right now to be paid off over 20 years. I'm like 3 years into it. And then on top of that, we've got it could be in the millions, but in the millions, I forgot, I haven't looked at it. You just have to live in debt and you have to, it'll bother you for a while. If you can have your parents pay for it, that'd be better. Your school, at least. What are some tips? So leading a team, I mean, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. You have to every once in a while you have to step back and look at yourself like, I'm the boss. People come to me, for their paycheck kind of thing. So these people, your team, your staff, look to you for everything. So you've already got that position of, of trust, and well, hopefully you got some trust. But just communicating all the time. I mean, we have meetings every single day before our day. We call it the huddle. We go through a team huddle. We have meetings. We try to get it once a month, or if not more, with the team. And you just have a lot of meetings. You just talk to people, and then people start cooking you food, and you love them. And building on this question, can you discuss practice appraisals? So yeah, a bank would do an appraisal. Appraisal is usually, it depends on the state really, but generally between 70 and 80% of the previous 2 years gross income is how much a practice is worth. So if you've got a $2 million practice and you've averaged $2 million for the last two, say 1 year you did 1.8, the next year you did 2.2, your average is $2 million, your practice is worth, let's say 0.8 of that, which is $1.6 million. So someone can buy your practice. Now, a lot goes into that. What kind of, chairs you have, get appraised. So like we just bought a new chair, so our practice value just went up. Kind of thing. So yeah, so it's about 70 to 80%, depending on the state. Some are lower, some are higher, of your previous 2 years gross income. I personally have to pay for new technology devices in your office, but personally, like so that's where you're an owner now. With owner comes a lot of tax benefits. I would read books on taxes. What's in that? There's books on it. There's lots of books on it, but your number one goal in life is to not pay taxes. Just kidding, but seriously, everything you do, you want it to be pre-tax. You don't want to pay for anything on your own. So what you do taxes in your office. So you take out loans, but it's all through your office. This isn't personal. This isn't on you. It's not like I can't get a car because I have $1 million in business loans, in my office. Nothing to do with that. Okay. So do you have any insight on the corporate side of dentistry? That's a very good question. It's going to play an even bigger role when you guys are dentists, because it's going to be even bigger. Right now, it's like 25% of dental practices, at least I think it is, as I heard, are DSOs. DSOs are like, Aspen's, the corporate offices. Negative or positive? I haven't worked at one personally. My wife did, and it didn't go very well. She worked at one for like a year, and it wasn't great. They are excellent ways to get your foot in the door. They, generally will pay like a little bit more for a first year out of dental school. Unless you come work for me, and then you make more. Just kidding, maybe. So yeah, I mean, a corporate dentist, you'll make like between 100 and 150 first year out of dental school if you go work for a corporate office. If you work for a private practice, you could make less, you could make a lot more. So you could make like, 100,000. I don't really see you making less than that. You could make 200,000 or more, depending on if you go out in the middle of nowhere, Yountville, or what's a good example? Johnstown. I know my sister-in-law has an office in Johnstown, and it does amazing because she's like the only dentist there. So if you go out of town, you can make a whole lot more. But that's a long time away. The transition from post-grad to have your own practice. There is no transition. You're just, one day you're a graduate and you're taking tests, the next day you're writing people paychecks. It's very hard to wrap your head around, but the fact that you have to do it because patients need treatment, staff needs to pay their bills, you need to keep the lights on. You just do it, and it's hard, and you screw up a lot. Working with insurance companies. Working with insurance. So, next question, Lily. Talking more about working with insurance companies. Have I ever given free or reduced treatment? Oh yes, all the time. Because at the end of the day, we do, and you're gonna it's kind of inside of you. You're gonna do it. You get a patient comes in the door, young guy, molars hurting, and they have no money at all. And they say, just pull it. My girlfriend's sitting in the car. She just wants me to pull it. She doesn't want to, she wants, she doesn't want me to pay for it. Am I going to pull a perfectly good molar on a young guy who's, all it needs is a root canal and crown? I try not to. I really try. I really won't. Usually I'll just give an antibiotic and say, think about it. But for sure, I've done free treatment. I try to do at least one like pro bono case a month. But with insurance, it's challenging because legally you cannot give a reduced fee to an insured how do I put this? You can't give a reduced fee to an insured patient without reducing the fee to insurance. So say I have a patient comes in, crown is $1,400, insurance is going to pay $450, and the patient's portion is going to be $450. The overall treatment is $900. I can't say, okay, you can only pay $200, and then me go ahead and collect $450 from insurance. That's insurance fraud. So you got to kind of play that game where, I'll set up a payment plan for that patient for a long period of time, and eventually, sometimes the patient just, I don't know, gets lost and tries to send me to collections. That's a great question. So it is. Insurance is a game. When you first start out, you're going to have to take insurance because that's how patients find you. What marketing strategies do you implement? So marketing is the number one thing. Marketing, at first, we send out flyers. That's a big one. And then you got to go to other businesses, you do all that stuff. But once you get too busy, you can't really do that. So flyers are a big one. People get them in the mail, and you get them, you ignore them. You get another one, you ignore it. You get another one. Eventually, you're like, oh, my 2/3. What comes to mind? Daily Dental and Braces Bar. I think I saw it on the flyer. Let me go grab that and give them a call. So that was when we first started our number one source of referrals. As you grow, as long as you're a cool person and you do good work and your patients like you, you start getting something called an internal referral. An internal referral is when a patient of yours tells a friend of theirs how great you are. So now all of a sudden the patient already trusts you. And that was a free form of marketing. Internal referrals are free. The patient already trusts you. They walk in, and I had a patient the other day. Okay, I had one patient the other day. She came in and we did a crown from premolar to premolar. It was a $9,000 case. And we delivered it and she loved it. 1 week later, a woman walks in the door and says, I would like you to do crowns on all my front teeth. And I say, whoa, I'm Dr. Rosenthal. It's nice to meet you. And she's like, I don't care about all that. I want you to do it. I already know you can do it. You can do it. You did it on my sister. So boom, right there. But yes, until you get to there, flyers, there's something called, what's the Google search optimizer? Search engine optimized, SOE. I don't know. There's a lot on that. What are some traits in staff that I look for? Do you guys know Mel? People like that? Awesome. Honestly, when it comes to staff, you meet them like once or twice. If you like them, if you think they're going to do a good job, you give them like a working interview. You just interview a lot of people, and then whichever one you like the most. I've interviewed some really talented people, really talented. This hygienist we just hired, she was amazing. She was like in the military, so she was like really stern. She was great at talking, treatment planning and all that stuff. But I don't know, I just didn't get that feeling. So it's not really a trait I'm looking for. It's just, do I want to hang out with this person? Do I think they're going to be good for my team? If they're good for my team, they're generally good for business. How do I deal with No, you don't need to ask that question. You deal with, no, I'm just kidding. How do I deal with patients who do not pay and have outstanding balances? That's a lot of patients. That's tons and tons of patients because they come in and they want all this work. We usually ask for a large down payment before we do anything. And they do it and then they kind of get into trouble and they can't pay it anymore, you know? So larger accounts, we do send to collections after like a year. I hate sending people to collections. That's the worst. All of my go on Google my office in Grove City, Daily Dental and Braces Bar, and look at my reviews. They're all really good. The really bad ones are all the people who got sent to collections. So is it even worth it to send someone to collections if they're just going to write you a bad review? And this person, the last person who did it, I didn't even see him in like 3 years. And he hadn't paid. He had like a $4,000 balance. We sent it to collections and he wrote us a bad review. And it's like, is it even worth it? So we actually don't tell anybody, but we like basically write off if they haven't paid. You know, if it's less than a certain amount, larger amounts we'll go get it. But you deal with them like that. That's a good way to think about it is it worth upsetting a patient? Because on average for marketing, this is a number you need to remember. On average, it costs about $400 to bring in a new patient. That's about the average cost of marketing, of the chair time of that first appointment, of the staffing. It's about $400 to bring in a new appointment. If the person owes $1,000, it's like a $600 difference. It's just lost opportunity cost. It's not like you're necessarily losing money. So that's how we deal with that. And it's a lot. So yeah, I mean, the main thing to take away, I think the biggest thing to take away from even tonight, I know I kind of talked about a lot of different things. I had bullet points, but you know, whatever. Is you are 100% a business owner. I mean, you are a dentist. Being a dentist is 10%, not even 10%. That's the easy part. You're a business owner and your job is to provide a service and sell kind of like a product. You're selling a service. And you need to start from the very beginning, remembering that that's the case. You're not a doctor at a hospital where someone comes in and they need a very specific thing. You are selling a service. You're selling health for someone's mouth, which is, you know, related to their systemic health. There's crazy studies going on about the relation of people who have buildup under their gums to having heart attacks. And it's like, I get contacted by hospitals. I get contacted by hospitals all the time with patients of mine who are in the hospital with cardiovascular issues, and they ask me, like, do I think that it's related to their teeth? And I say, and if in certain cases, I've said yes, 100%. They need to come back in, get their periodontal therapy done, and then maybe they won't die of a heart attack or something. What should be on dental practice websites? Dental practices website. What should be on the dental? Look at my website. My website is bracesbar.com. We pay someone a lot of money to keep our thing updated, and I actually haven't been on it in a while. I should probably check it. It's a picture of my wife and my kids. The picture is very, very old, and I actually have another kid that I forgot about. And thank you for asking me, because now I have to add that kid. But there's videos and whatnot. Do you feel confident? So yeah, I would just check out my website and just put everything. We pay someone a lot of money to make ours, so just copy ours. Do you feel confident going into treatment right out of dental school without doing a residency program? Great question. I did not do a residency program. I actually was about to. I was like, I actually moved to Kansas to do the residency. And then something happened with the residency. Internally, they fired the teacher that I really wanted to learn from. So I was able to get out of it. They gave us the option. That is very specific to each person. I know a lot of people in dental school who didn't have a lot of confidence going out of school, and it might have been a better option for them to go into a DSO or go work for a large practice where they've got a lot of mentors. I had an amazing mentor my first year, Actually, my first job out of dental school when I started like 2 days after graduation was at a Medicaid office, where it was me, one assistant, and one front desk. We saw like 30 patients a day. You just gotta kind of do it. I mean, your brain, you will learn so much dentistry that you don't even really have to think about it. Like that patient I was saying today who had that condylar fracture, she also had a complete dislocation of her mandible. I hadn't thought about that in years. I mean, you never get patients like that. All of a sudden I open my mouth and this stuff starts like spewing out. You will learn all of that in dental school. Even if you don't even go to like a good one. I mean, Case was very good. Ohio State's very good. Most of them are good that I've heard of. But it is a personal thing. Like, are you generally a confident person? So like, build that up. Make sure that you are confident. Because just like we were saying, you're a business owner. You have to. So you have to be confident in that. You just have to be a confident person, I guess. A little bit cocky, maybe. Like have a little bit of an ego. That'll help. That'll go a long way. I know we'll keep going on. I could go on forever for sure. That's how much there is. Obviously, the best thing to do would be actually to go to a practice, especially if you guys are all in the club. So, you obviously are interested in becoming a dentist, but that doesn't mean anything. You got to go and actually work somewhere, shadow. Don't do too much shadowing. Shadowing is kind of boring. But you guys are all welcome to come to our practice. You already know Mela. But yeah, does anybody have any more questions?
I guess I have just one more to end on. And you mentioned shadowing. I feel like that's definitely a great position for people to ask their questions and kind of see everything firsthand.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess, do you have any last pieces of advice for us as pre-dental students on things we can be doing to be proactive aside from reading books, taking business classes, shadowing, or working at an office? I mean, those are all really great.
Yeah, definitely the books. Definitely read a lot of business books. Don't read dentistry books. You'll learn all the dentistry. That's the easy part, like I say. Read the books, the business books. Get that mindset, the business mindset, because you guys are all, you're going to dental school, but you are going into a entrepreneurship position. You're all going to be entrepreneurs. As hard as that is to grasp, and you might not even think that's even remotely true. 100%, you are creating a company. I'm a dentist, yes, but I own a company called Daily Dental. So, I mean, that's the most important thing. Your job right now, though, I mean, read those books, learn about all that. Your job right now, all you should be trying to do is get into dental school. That is the hardest part. Once you get into dental school, you are a dentist. I have a lot of tricks on how to help get in. Obviously, you need to do, mediocre or fine on school. I didn't do that great in undergrad. I got pretty good grades, but not great at all. Low threes, maybe. I don't remember. But like I was saying, go to the dental schools you want to go to. Do we have any seniors? Yeah, some people. Physically go there. I would introduce you to the guy who got me into school, but he just passed away. Actually, which is kind of sad. He was the head of admissions at Case Western. I literally went there all the time. I went with my wife. We would go. I had some friends who were already there, so I would have lunch with them. And I just, they knew who I was. They were like, "Oh, this is a kind of cool person." We could imagine hanging out with them for a while. So physically go there. And if you need an introduction, I know people at Case. I don't know anybody at Ohio State. But if you need an introduction, I know people at Ohio State, which I have friends who went to Ohio State. They can give you introductions. Reach out to me and I'll set you up with them, and they will make introductions for you. 100%. The most important thing, more important than your GAT scores, is to actually physically meet the admissions staff. Let them get to know you. Unless you're terribly socially awkward and you're going to just blow that meeting. Don't treat it like an interview. Just go and be like, "Hey, I just wanted to peek around. I was in the area. I really want to go here. I thought I'd come in and just see the place." And they'll be, at least at Case, I know the guy Chuck. His name is Chuck. Does anyone know if he still works there? Emil Chuck. He will grab you and he will take you on an hour-long tour, and then he will know you and he'll see your application and be like, oh my gosh, Joanna Wang, yeah, she's great. Let me, definitely I'll bring this to the board. Reading those business books, but your main goal 100% right now is get into dental school, because I can tell you one thing I did not mention, it's the best job in the world. Literally, I mean, it ranks number 1 or number 2 on US News every year. I don't know what it is this year, but I love it. It is, I could not imagine doing anything else at this point. And I was not even ever going to do that. I mean, you get, it's really good potential earnings, and you're a boss and you're an entrepreneur, and you get to like a lot of people. If you like to talk, obviously I like to talk a lot. Yeah, that was a question.
I guess if anyone else has more questions, is it okay if we include your email in the next?
Yeah, for sure. Can I just write it in the chat?
Oh yeah, that'd be perfect. Thank you so much. Perfect. And we will share that in the next email as well. Thank you for your insight, your advice, your encouragement. Yes.
Yeah.
Feel free to log off if you'd like to. You can stay for our election position overview, but I'm sure that's boring and you have other.
Yeah, so just know you're going into the best field in the world. I love it. I got my dream car in the garage, Ford Raptor, which is it's true. So yeah, rock on. Nice meeting everybody. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Mela. Good luck with everything. Definitely feel free to reach out. I'll be around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hopefully that was insightful for everyone. It's definitely a lot to soak in. I'm sure we all feel slightly overwhelmed, but I'm confident that, like he said, a lot of things you kind of just learn on the fly. And of course, you can try to be as proactive and, educate yourself as much as possible beforehand, but some things we will just cross that bridge once we get there. So now moving on to election positions overview. So I'm just going to quickly go through the slide and briefly just kind of give you a summary of what's going on. So elections will take place virtually from Monday, March 15th to Thursday, March 25th, excluding that weekend in between. If you were a student at OSU and in the Pre-Dent Club last year, right when COVID hit, then you probably remember the whole election process. So it will be pretty much identical to last year's. Some things might change, but like I say in the next bullet point, don't worry about the details right now. Just start thinking about which positions speak to you and your interests. And we highly, highly recommend that you reach out to the current e-board member in the role that you are considering running for. And then also just keep an eye out for an email containing all of the necessary details. That should be sent out before the next meeting, but also don't worry if you miss it, because we will briefly go over it at our March 3rd meeting. And before I jump into kind of the overview of each position, I just want to highly encourage, especially if you're on this call, if you're even slightly thinking about running for a role, then I personally think that's a sign that you should at least take the step of talking to the current e-board member, if not actually pursue, running for that position. Because at least speaking for myself, and I'm sure the other e-board members can relate, when I ran for service chair last year, I definitely was not super confident. I wasn't really, sure of myself. And same with running for president. I definitely didn't feel extremely qualified, but I had a lot of encouragement, and I felt like I knew that even if there were challenges that I didn't know how to go about, I would be able to overcome it, because that's what the whole entire executive board team is for, bouncing ideas off of each other. Nothing ever falls on one person. So all of that is to say that if you're even slightly thinking about it, then try to put your fear aside and just go for it. Okay, so I'm not going to obviously read these long descriptions because you can just go back and replay the recording for this meeting, or like I said, there will be a document sent out with all of this information with even more details. But just kind of going through who is in the current role and their email. So if you do want to reach out, then I would recommend doing it either through email or GroupMe. You can just scroll through and find our name and message us. So obviously president, vice president are definitely kind of the spearheads and the face of the club, but honestly, a lot of the stuff goes on behind the scenes through the secretary, which is Joanna, and the treasurer, Mitchell. So feel free to write these emails down. The ODA liaison, which is Catherine, who helped facilitate the resume building meeting, which is another super cool kind of flexible role that you can kind of make your own. Media chair is Mela, and that has especially been super relevant now. And I assume who even knows what next year will look like, but it's just such an extremely integral part of disseminating information beyond just the emails. Service chair, which is Sarah. And of course, this role is so important to the club and so important when it comes to applying and, volunteer and community service hours. Obviously, that's been extremely difficult this year, but generally, this is such an important role, not only in executing the different events, but also educating the club. Some examples that I came up with were food insecurity, homelessness in Columbus, things along those lines. And then fundraising chair, which is Taylor. That's another super recent but important position. Since our club is growing so quickly, we do need to be on top of our funding. And then finally, we have club engagement, another newer position, who this is just also, again, such an integral role of this whole team. I could say that about each individual because it's true. Social events kind of outside of just the meetings. So with that said, I kind of reserved the last few minutes just in case anybody did have specific questions about the role, or not even just about the role, but more so about the election process in general. So feel free to either drop any questions in the chat or turn on your microphone. And also, if any of the current eBoard members want to give some words of encouragement or kind of detail their own decision-making process when it came to running for a role, then feel free to do that. Something I forgot to mention is the drop-down policy, which again, in the document, it will all be detailed, but basically, if you, for example, want to run for president, but you end up not receiving that role, you are able to drop down one time to another position. So for example, typically down the hierarchy sometimes, so if you don't get president, then maybe you'll run for vice president or something like that. But also there really is no hierarchy. It's super fluid and we all work off of each other. And someone asked if first years are encouraged to run. And oh my gosh, I should have made that clear from the get-go. Absolutely. First, second years, we need more representation from, the younger end of the undergraduate spectrum, because ultimately people who end up being involved pretty early, whether that is through a formal position like club engagement or service chair, or just being a super involved general member, typically are the ones who end up, running the show when they're seniors. And so the earlier you can be involved in a role like a formal one, then the better. So a long-winded answer to say yes. And then someone asked if the speeches will be pre-recorded videos again. And yes, that is what we are planning on doing unless we come up with some better solution. It definitely is a long-winded process because, like I said on the very first slide, I believe it's like March 15th to the 25th, that's a 2-week span. But in order to make it fair with the drop downs, then we decided it would just be better to kind of extend it rather than do a 2-hour Zoom meeting which probably wouldn't be very engaging. Okay, if there are no more questions and no,
I think someone asked how often we meet, and we usually meet on the off weeks. Sometimes we don't, but that's usually our day to meet is like the off Wednesdays when we don't have meetings.
yeah, that's a really good question. Just kind of the time commitment outside of just the meetings. It definitely depends on your specific role, but in terms of actual committed times outside of the meetings, it's typically the off Wednesday. But sometimes we don't have much to discuss, so just get a week off. And often, like, we really do work together in these descriptions. I kind of have detailed, for example, the club engagement chair works closely with the fundraising and service chairs to organize events, and so on. And also, of course, the current e-board members, besides Sarah, who was also on the e-board last year, I guess none of us really have a super solid understanding of what a typical year would look like, just because we have been thrown with so many changes. But at the same time, we've just faced different challenges, and hopefully next year things will be in person. That will make some things different. But also, the whole point of the club's growth is to evolve and to make changes and to grow, instead of just kind of, following the same exact track as what the last year paved for you. So if that does make you nervous, then trust me, that's the whole point. We want our club to just continue being a new version of the previous years. Okay, and like I said, you can reach out to those individuals in the role you're considering. Other than that, have a great night, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
Sorry, would you be able to go back to the previous slides for the different positions? I didn't have the chance to screenshot a couple of them.
Yep, I can figure it out. Like I said, there will be a document being sent out, so if you don't get all of them, do not worry. Is this okay, or should I make it full screen?
That's fine. Thank you.
Lily, you can probably stop recording now.
Okay, I can figure it out.